college football history. If you saw it, you remember it. If you were part of it, you'll never forget it. It was the final game of the 1982 season in the Pac-10. Stanford was at California. The Cardinal kicked the field goal with time running down, and it looked as if the game was over. But Stanford still had to kick off. And that is when the game became a classic, November 20th, 1982.
This is the 5th anniversary of the play. Those 5 laterals by Cal in the waning moments to beat Stanford in 1982, and it has to go down as one of the most bizarre endings to a college football game in history.
Midfield, they tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end zone. Will it count? The Bears have scored, but the bands are out on the field. There were flags all over the place. Wait and see what happens. We don't know who won the game. We've heard no decision yet. Everybody's milling around on the field. The Bears have won. The Bears have won.
Through all the mass confusion as Kevin Moan ran through the Stanford band for the game-winning touchdown, a trombone player became famous, but not for playing his instrument. Instead, for being bowled over by Moan in back of the end zone.
Well, I was going for a stroll down to church, and I passed a newsstand, and I saw a San Jose Mercury headline that said, "Stuff this in your trombone," with a picture of this guy who ran me over about to spike the ball.
Even now, 5 years after the incident, Terrell often receives publicity. His co-workers here at Horion Instruments in Redwood City knew nothing about his fame, and they were totally stunned to learn that this shy young man that they've known for almost a year is really that famous trombone player who was knocked silly in '82. Somehow his life has never been the same.
I like to consider myself more of a folk hero. I was very shocked. My mind was elsewhere. I thought we had just won a football game, and I was ready to celebrate, party with the band and all the Stanford fans.
Did it knock you out?
No.
Were you hurt?
I was not hurt at all. I was just surprised.
Terrell still owns his famous trombone. He says people have tried to steal it out of his apartment, and others have offered to buy it. But Terrell says he'll never give it up.
They are still buzzing, and I mean buzzing, over the game of the year to date. Denver's 31-29 Monday nighter over the Bears. You've been buzzing about it. And last week, I hate to do this, Tom, but I got to give you credit, because last week on game day, you said John Elway has the type of skills necessary at quarterback to beat the Bears, and I guess we saw them, at least in the even quarters on Monday night.
Well, I'll give myself a pat on the back for that as an expert analysis. I think the thing is that when you watch Elway close up, and I was all over the stadium at Mile High, he tends to be more awesome in person than he is via the camera. I think that when you see him run now, you see him run with confidence, and he's not really scrambling with reckless abandon. He's scrambling with purpose. He's got his head up. He has another dimension by being able to run for first down. The other thing that I think is especially noted of John Elway is that he has the arm strength to hurt you from any spot on the field. Here he scrambles, he finds Natil probably about 60 yards away, and he drills it to him. And the other dimension, of course, that coaches like, and I know Coach Reeves is impressed, with the fact that John stays in the pocket when he really gets a chance to stay in the pocket. He's not going to run if he doesn't have to. Now, the thing is, I think this is the wave of the future. When you get guys like John Elway, Randall Cunningham, coaches know they have an added dimension in their backfield that's going to get them yards. And I had a chance this week to talk with Elway on Elway.
Your ability to scramble. I've seen film of you. You've been doing it all your life. How do you get it? Where does it come from?
Well, I really don't know where it came from. I think that when I first started playing football, I always wanted to be a running back. And my first years in Pop Warner, I played running back and really enjoyed running the football. And then when my dad suggested to me in 9th grade that I should play quarterback, I said okay, and ended up playing quarterback. But I don't know exactly where it comes from. I think a lot of it is a God-given talent, and it's a gift that I feel very fortunate to have. I think the thing that I've always tried to work on is being smart when I scramble and scrambling at the right time. If you're scrambling quarterback and you're scrambling all the time, it's not going to be nearly as successful as scrambling and getting out of the pocket when you really need to get out of the pocket, not getting out of the pocket just to get out of the pocket. And I think that I've learned to become better at that, and I've been a lot more successful scrambling because I've been choosing my time to get out of the pocket a lot better.
Raiders, losers of 6 games in a row. Broncos coming off a big Monday night win against the Chicago Bears. psychologically, a lot of things could go wrong for the Broncos. Tell me what you think about this upcoming Raider game.
Well, I think that, as you know, as many times we play the Raiders, it doesn't matter if we're 8-0 or 0-8. It's still going to be a big game because there's a great rivalry there. It's going to be a heck of a dogfight, and you know, we know going out there playing them in their backyard, it's going to be tough for us. So, you know, I think we haven't played consistent enough week in and week out to be overconfident. And you know, the Bear win was a big win, and it gave us some confidence. But by no means are we overconfident, and by no means, as an offensive player, are the Raider defense losers of 6 straight games. They've turned the ball over quite a bit, and looking at it from the offensive side of the ball, we've got our work cut out for us because they're a great defensive team.
Now, that's what they say. You were with the Broncos this week. Could they have left something on the field against the Bears? It took a big effort time to beat the Bears. Could they have left something in Denver, not taking it on the plane to the Raiders?
I don't think so. I think the Raiders are certainly looking to play the part of spoilers, and this could salvage much of their season if they beat the Broncos. But the Broncos haven't won a road game to date with their regulars, and I think that's on their minds. I know Dan Reeves has mentioned it to them a couple of times this week.
Of course, the Raiders don't have what the Broncos have, and that's a big leader. Elway, of course, for the Broncos. Mark Wilson, is he the leader? Well, that BYU quarterback may not be, but with the Bears, there's no question that their BYU quarterback, Jim McMahon, certainly is. Remember,
900 total yards by the two teams, 49 first downs, and believe it or not, when the defense had to, it came through. What went wrong? What went right?
What do you mean what went right? I think everybody came to play. It was a big ball game, and we got the big plays when we needed them.
What was the difference in the second half with the defense that you played so well? You were able to contain McMahon and get to him when you had to there at the end of the ball game.
I think they forced us into a position where we had to keep our nickel defense on the field because they came out on first and second down, throwing deep. And we needed the extra cover people in there, and we put in our big rush front, and those guys got a lot of pressure on McMahon, and we got some sacks out of, you know, Mecklenburg and Rulon, and Andre Townsend with a big sack that put McMahon out of the game.
Well, John Elway didn't say that this game was more important to him playing Jim McMahon, but you got the feeling he was playing with a lot of intensity in this ball game.
Well, I tell you, Elway was hot all night. You know, anytime you give him the opportunity to throw the football, you can make things happen with receivers like Johnson, Natil, and Mark Jackson. And you also have Steve Sewell to throw to. So the key is getting Elway the ball and let him move around and make things happen.
They didn't get one sack on him. Here was about the closest chance they got. You see Richard Dent just missing him on that play.
Well, yeah, the offensive line did a fantastic job. Stephon Humphreys for his first start, he stepped in there, and he blocked really well. And you know, the All-Pro Keith Bishop, he did a fine job, and Larry Lee did an outstanding job. So, you know, the offensive line, they gave him the protection that he needed to throw the long ball.
And here he finds Ricky Natil for Ricky's first NFL touchdown.
He was really excited about that. Ricky, as you can see, he gets up and bows to the south stands. Here's John again going back deep and scrambling off, and Stephon Humphreys gets a good block on the Wilbur Marshall, and he throws it all the way across the field. I was looking, where's this ball going? And there's Clarence K. He makes a big catch.
You just have to hold your breath when he throws like that because only he knows where that ball's going.
Speaking of holding your breath, look at this play by Steve Sewell when he leaps over for the touchdown. And you can see the intensity that the offense was playing with.
That was a game-winning touchdown on offense. On defense now, tell us what you guys did to stop Jim McMahon.
Well, the key to stopping McMahon was getting pressure on him right here. We didn't do too much to stop him. Mike Harden slipped, and Willie Galt, you know, you can see his Olympic speed there. He strides out and gets the touchdown here.
And then we had Mark Haynes making a nice fumble recovery on the next play.
Well, I think on this particular play, the fridge wasn't ready for it. He runs into McMichael's back. The ball pops out. Mark Haynes falls on it in the end zone. I thought he was going to down it, but he gets up and he runs it down the field, I think, for about 24 yards and puts our offense back in good field position. And I think they drove that ball down the field and got a touchdown.
That play really turned the game around, didn't it? The Bears.
I think that was the key play of the game, and it really took them out of their game plan because they could have gone ahead 21-7.
And you talk about a guy being in the right place at the right time. How about Willie Galton? Again, in the second half, after you'd had a good second quarter, they came back to Galt right at the start of the third quarter.
Well, I think the thing here is with McMahon scrambling out of the pocket, we probably got someone that bit up, and Willie Galt was left all alone.
And here was the worst pass of the game. Jim McMahon to Casey Clark. He likes to be called Kevin, by the way.
Well, KC, he did a fine job. You know, KC was in the right place at the right time, and he had the pressure on McMahon. He threw it up, and KC got the big play.
And as we said earlier, the defense came through at the end with some big sacks at the end of the game. The crowd is going nuts at this point.
Well, this is where Carl Mecklenburg, he comes in, he grabs him by the leg, and he pulls him down and Rulon. And I think that's Michael Brooks they pile on, and that sack really took him out of it.
31-29 was the final score in the ball game, and afterwards I had a chance to be in the locker room and listen to Mike Ditka's post-game address to the media. Boy, I tell you, the guy had some harsh words, lightning on his tongue and fire in his eyes. And here's what Mike Ditka had to say to the press. I'll tell you, being in there listening to him, you had to almost chuckle under your breath to see a guy that was this mad. Listen to Mike Ditka.
There's a lot of discipline lacking on this football team. Discipline to know what to do at the right time and to do what the coach says to do. And when that's not done, you got a lot of problems. But you people keep pumping smoke up people's butt about, oh, who's going to call the plays? Believe me, the person that's calling the plays is the right person. That's me.
A lot of players don't like to play for coaches that ridicule players or get on them to the press after the game. Would you want to play for a guy like Mike Ditka?
Well, I think I could play for a guy like that. And, you know, all the coaches I've ever had have been the type to get on you. So it wouldn't be anything new to me.
Well, the coaches must say. Good night.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Show. Second and 12 from the 12. Broncos up 2017. Elway hits Vance Johnson for 49 yards. They're out to midfield. They get the field goal, and they go on to win it 23-17. Congratulations, you. I wondered, after talking to you yesterday, if you could come up with any new adjectives to describe John Elway tonight.
Well, he was amazing, Ron. Of course, he's been that way for the last few years, but two games as important as games as we've had the last 2 weeks against two opponents that are supposed to be the best in football, the Chicago Bears and the LA Raiders. He's just been magnificent. He's just made some unbelievable plays, escaping some rushes that you don't see how in the world he could come out of it. And he's been tremendous.
Do you find yourself, when you're on the sidelines, watching some of the things develop and even being amazed yourself sometimes?
Well, there's no doubt about my amazement, on the sideline. But then when you go and watch the film,
next day,
you enjoy it a little bit more, and then you're amazed a little bit more because he does some tremendous things. He's just a great athlete, and I think everybody knows that. But he's playing with so much confidence right now. Also, he sees things so well. He's not surprised by anything. He's working awful hard to be the best.
You're right back in the thick of things right now, and I guess you could say, I mean, you control your own destiny. You have 3 left with San Diego and Seattle.
Well, that's true. We knew these last 2 games were going to be very important for us, and this is going to be bigger than the last 2 because we can't afford to go 2.5 down to the Chargers with only 4 games left in the season. So it's a must-win for us. Certainly would like to swap places with the Chargers right now, but we've got to go into San Diego and play just as hard as we possibly can, and if we play with the type of intensity we played the last couple of weeks, anything's possible.
It's a shame you're suffering the number of injuries that you are. I mean, you're really depleted at this point of the season.
Well, we're banged up. We've lost some key people, but, you win with a football team, not individuals. And we've got, I think, good people backing up in a lot of positions. They've already come through for us, and we're just going to have some more people come through for us. And I think if our defense continues to take step forwards as they have the last couple of weeks, then that's going to be the real key the next 5 weeks, because I think we'll move the football strictly because of the personnel we got. We got some people on offense that can put points on the board, and we got some guys that'll battle.
We just got to continue to work hard and play with the intensity on defense and come up with the big plays when we have to.
Have you decided, Dan, how you'll replace Steve Sewell on the roster? Might you activate Warren Marshall?
Well, I think that's a move. It's obvious. We'll activate Warren Marshall. What we do with the other move, because we'll have 2 places on our roster with Dennis and Steve going on injured reserve. So what we do with the other move, we'll make that decision tomorrow, but for sure Warren Marshall will come on our squad.
All right, don't go away. We've got a good show planned. We'll come back, we'll look at the highlights, and later on, we'll talk with All-Pro linebacker Carl Mecklenburg.
Ball game's not a whole lot of fun. John hits Clarence here early in the ball game on a 3rd down and 6 situation, and Clarence is playing so well for us right now. He's blocking well, but he's also running good routes, and he makes a good run. He almost broke his thing, almost broke McElroy's tackle there, and he would have gone down even closer, but we were held on 4th and 21. Rich came in and kicked a 49-yard field goal, and you know, this has really been a big part of our offense too, as Rich is kicking the ball off well, and you know, we have confidence that he can go as far back as, you know, 52, 53 yards, and that's been important for us. Mark is sacked here. This is a big sack. Carl came around, he beat Holloway, knocked the ball loose, and Brooks was able to cover it. Michael recovered down about the 23-yard line and gave us excellent field position on 2nd and 10 from the 24. John hit Vance coming across the middle. The ball was tipped slightly, and Vance still was able to concentrate and catch the ball. Got an excellent block that you can't see here from Mark Jackson on Mike Haynes, and went in the end zone standing up, and all of a sudden it's 10-0, but the real key there was the turnover that we got on the 24-yard line. The next possession on 3rd and 11 from the 29, John went scrambled to his left. He got some blocks there from our line to give him enough time, and Ricky Nattil had beaten Seal, their corner, who had replaced Haynes. Seal tried to bump him, and he missed him and fell down, and you know, John had the presence to see Ricky and hit him from 54 yards. The end of the first quarter is still 10-0, and we got a chance to increase it on 4th and 6 from the 13. Rich comes in, kicks a 31-yard field goal to up the lead to 13-0, and you feel pretty good about it. Sure. Because our defense has held them, and then we get a play, and you can't really fault Vance. He makes a good run right here, but you know, he just turned the ball loose, and it popped out, and all of a sudden they've got new life, because now they've got excellent field position on the 35-yard line. And the first play after that, they had a well-designed play. They faked the pitch right with Bo, and Bo came back around to his left, picked up a block there from his tackle, and you know, that's 230 pounds that ran over Mike there, and we didn't have any help around him. I think Rulon relaxed a little bit right there because he thought the tackle was made and couldn't really tell where he could have made the play or not, but that was just an excellent run by Bo Jackson. They cut the lead to 13-7 on 3rd and 4. We were trying to hit Steve coming out of the backfield, and he got knocked down by the linebacker, and John scrambled out of the pocket, found Steve, and this is where Steve injures his jaw. He gets hit, and I'm not sure where he got hit there or whether it was running the route, because he got hit in the face on both those situations. The very next play, Gene Lang runs a trap play up the middle, gets a good block there from Stephon Humphreys, breaks it over the right side and gains 28 yards before he was finally knocked out of bounds by Washington down around the 25-yard line. On 1st and goal to go from the 1, John runs a quarterback sneak to make our lead at that time 20-7. You can see Steve going into the dressing room to get his jaw x-rayed. On 1st and goal, no, this is a pass, a screen pass here. Wilson lays it off to Allen. He gets some excellent blocks here. Goes down to the 1-yard line before Mark Haynes is finally able to knock him out of bounds on the 1-yard line. Well-executed screen pass that put him in good position to score right before the half. On the very next play, he pitches it off to the left side to Bo Jackson, and he's able to power in the end zone to make the lead at halftime, 20-14. And you know, it was a half that we really had kind of dominated, and yet we go in jeopardy of losing the ball game. And of course, the drive right before the half was started off by a poor kickoff coverage. We missed several tackles. They got the ball back out to about the 28-yard line, and just a few plays they scored. And so, you know, that really upset me, and I know it did our football team, because we had played pretty good, but all of a sudden they had one drive, and and one fumble that led to Bo Jackson's touchdown. It's 20-14.
Second half, a defensive struggle. I mean, both teams are scoring at the end of the second quarter, and that was it for the game, really.
Well, it really was, and I think our defense, again, 2 weeks in a row now, has come through with some key plays in the second half. Again, Bo Jackson goes around the left end here, left side, and he hits a little crease right here, and he's finally stopped there by Greg Cragen and Andre Townsend and Randy Robbins. On 4th and 6 from the 16, Chris Barr kicks a 34-yard field goal to narrow the lead to 20-17, and you know they really have the momentum in their favor right now. And Wilson goes back to pass from the 49-yard line. We had a safety blitz on with Steve Wilson, and it was a very well executed blitz, and he came through and sacked Wilson for 8 yards, and we were able to force him to punt at the end of the third quarter there. This is a big play in the game. 2nd and 12 from our 12-yard line. John fades back, throws the ball to Vance Johnson, and Vance just makes a great catch because Washington had pretty good coverage on him, but Vance was able to outleap him for the ball. It got us out of a hole, gave us excellent field position. We were able to move on down on 3rd and 16. Again, we ran the play and scramble to our right, and John is able to find Vance Johnson. He makes a great throw. He really rifled this ball between two defenders. Was able to hit Vance down to the 6-yard line. We were not able to knock it in on 4th and 3 from the 3. Rich came in, kicked a 20-yard field goal to make the lead 23-17. Of course, that's Lester Hayes standing on the sideline. Big play again right here. Wilson is back to pass. He's flushed out the pocket on a good pass rush there by Michael Brooks. And finally, Rulon's able to sack him for 13 yards. And again, to stop one of their drives, they were forced to punt on that series. And we were able to run the clock out on some really key third down conversions by John.
Vance may be having a Pro Bowl type year.
Well, Vance has played extremely well since the strike. He's come back. He's really had an awful lot of catches. And, you know, yesterday was a good game for him. If it wasn't for a couple of drop passes that he had in the ball game, it could have been an outstanding game, but it was still a good one. And Vance continues to play with a lot of confidence, and he continues to improve every week.
Late in the game, I wanted to ask you this last night. Were you surprised when they had a 4th and 2, I think at their 45, with about 4:50 to go, they decided to punt to you and they never saw the ball again?
Well, I think it was a little bit further than that. You know, if I remember correctly, they had completed passes like 4th and 4, and really and truly, if you gamble there and you aren't successful, you're really giving up. The game's over. And you know, you got to have confidence in your defense. They put us in a hole, but we were able to make some key third down conversions really on the running of John Elway. They would have gotten the ball back. So I can't second guess. I think I would have probably done the same thing in that situation because you got to have confidence your defense can hold and give you the football back.
Wrangler Player of the Week awards.
Well, John is our Offensive Player of the Week. You know, no surprise, I don't think, to anybody. He had an outstanding game. Our defensive player of the game is Greg Cragen. Greg played an outstanding game at the nose tackle position, making some key plays. Our special teams player of the game is Rick Dennison. Rick had the most knockdowns, which are blocks, for our returns of anybody all year with 4, and had an assist and just graded out great on our special teams. Our overall most valuable player is John Elway, and again, we'd like to thank Wrangler and Miller Stockman for the awards that they give our players each week.
Yeah, we would. We'll be back in a minute. We'll be joined by Carl Mecklenburg.
Commitment to excellence.
I think it's just, you know, breakdowns in certain situations that's really hurting them. You know, I think if they had just a little more help on the offensive line and find themselves a good quarterback, the Raiders could be the premier team in the AFC West.
On offense this week, John Elway just 2 yards short of another 300-yard passing game.
It's John Elway. I think it's a short pass to Vance Johnson. Vance has just been playing outstanding ball. He's really playing at Pro Bowl pace. I think he's pushing himself, and he wants to be there, and he's really working hard at it.
5 catches for 115 yards for Vance Johnson. He's on his way to a 1,000-yard season, and Ricky Nattiel having a good season, too.
Ricky Nattiel, he's making a push for Rookie of the Year. These receivers are just doing an incredible job. You know, not to take anything from Elway, because you know the guy has the talent to do amazing things. But these receivers, man, they really make it work.
One of the guys you lost again this week is Steve Sewell. Have you ever seen so many injuries in a season?
I've never seen anything happen like this before in my life, especially the case with Steve Sewell. He caught the ball, and as he fell down to the guy kneed him right in the jaw, and I thought maybe he just got a busted lip or something, but you see him 2 days later, he's got a wrap around his head. Here's Elway sneaking in for the touchdown. And the Raiders, you know, it's just a situation where they break down and things just don't go right, and it just seems to keep snowballing. And I'm sure Al Davis is really flustered about the situation in Los Angeles.
23-17, the final in Los Angeles, as the Broncos do beat the Raiders for the second year in a row in Los Angeles. Now, on defense, Carl Mecklenburg had an excellent ball game, didn't he, Sunday?
Carl had a great game. And the thing with Carl Mecklenburg, he just gives it all he has. You know, he doesn't possess the most, you know, talent as far as speed, but with what he has, man, he gets there. He gets to the quarterback so quick. He makes things happen. Here's one of his sacks. Brooks recovers the fumble. You know, Carl's just all over, and you can't say enough about Carl. Here's a play where Bo Jackson comes around the corner. The number one thing you can't do against a back like this, you can't squat down and wait for him. And he ducks his shoulder down, and he gets upfield, and this guy's just an incredible back.
What did Mike Harden say after that play?
Well, the thing is, I think Mike Harden, he bounced right back in there the next play, and he was ready to take him on again. He won't back down from a guy like that.
And with a Bo Jackson, you can use Marcus Allen more as a receiver. He had, I think, 4 catches this week, so he's doing a good job.
Marcus Allen was their leading receiver that day. He had 4 catches for 60 yards, and Bo Jackson was the leading rusher, and he had 98 yards. So you have weapons like Allen and Jackson and Christensen, and you get the receiving core in on it, and you got a potent offense, but it just didn't work out for him that day.
Here's one of the guys you were talking about starting for you now in the secondary, Steve Wilson.
Steve Wilson, you know, here he is coming on safety blitz and getting another sack in on Wilson. Steve has really come along real well, and I'm glad to see him get his opportunity to start.
And we did a story on Michael Brooks this week, and he played well, too.
Here's Michael putting pressure on Mark Wilson, and Rulon Jones gets the sack. He flushed him out of the pocket. Michael is coming along, you know, just fine, you know. The more reps he gets, the more practicing time he gets. That patience is the key. He's going to be a great outside linebacker.
Tell me how much fun it is to go into Los Angeles and beat the Raiders. It's always a special feeling, isn't it, to beat that ball club?
It's fun to beat the Raiders anywhere. Beat them over at Cherry Creek High School. It doesn't matter. You just want to beat them.
What about these Three Amigos? I heard you have another nickname for the Three Amigos. What have you been calling them this week?
Oh, the Three Amigos. I don't know how to say over here, but those little guys, man, they do the job. Ricky Vance and Mark, they work so hard. Now, I think Mark practiced all week with bruised or cracked ribs. And, oh, here they are. They shot their poster, huh? The Three
Amigos getting ready to shoot their poster.
Can you believe that?
It was John Elway who gave them the nickname, the Three Amigos, in training camp, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Elway was the one that gave them the name. But they've been doing a fantastic job this year.
Well, there you have it, the Three Amigos. Well, it's time to get ready now for the Chargers.
For Broncos. Chargers had their 8-game winning streak ended last week, looking to regroup against the Broncos, an erratic road club first quarter. 2nd and goal for Denver. Vency Glenn picks it off in the end zone, picks off Elway's pass. He's headed down the right side. Ricky Nattiel makes the dive. He's the last one who really has a good shot at Vency Glenn as he goes 101, 102, 103 yards, the longest interception return for a touchdown in NFL history, 7-0 Chargers. Elway now 46 yards here to Ricky Nattiel for the score. Denver takes the lead 14-7, and they never looked back after that. The Chargers looking to score just before the half. Kellen Winslow gets the pass, but he is pushed back by a trio of Broncos at the 1. San Diego is denied. It was 14-7 at the half. And Broncos' big third down efficiency. That was John Elway on third down, 9 yards to Vance Johnson, 31-10 Denver's. Chargers score 3 touchdowns. It was Denver scoring 3 touchdowns on third down. The Broncos go on to win. The final score was 31-17. They are 5-0 in the AFC West. John Elway said he was pretty pleased with his club's performance.
The offensive line just gave me all day, and receivers ran great routes. It was just a great team effort offensively, and defense got us the ball, and we just held on the ball and kept it away from Dan, and fortunately we got out of here with a win.
They've got a great quarterback, and when you have a great quarterback that's playing well and they keep the ball that long, that's the name of the game. The name of the game is controlling the ball and having it more time than the other team so you can score points and keeping the other team out of the end zone, and they did both.
Elway? Oh, he's a man, quote unquote.
All right.
I can talk. Okay, we'll find out in a minute. John Canales here for Greg Mills.
That's right. We'll talk about the Broncos.
All right.
really stood out.
Oh, he's a stud. I mean, what else can you say about the guy, Dave? As a matter of fact, I think everybody's going to get tired of hearing about it, but right now, John Elway is the most valuable player in the National Football League. I don't think anybody else is playing better. Today, he picked the San Diego defense apart for more than 300 yards, 31-17. Denver picks up the victory over the Chargers. Elway, 21 of 32, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns in the Broncos' first possession. That pass to Rick Matthews sets up a first and goal situation for the Broncos, but then perhaps the worst play of the day for Elway and the single highlight for the Chargers as Vincey Glenn picks off Elway's pass in the end zone 103 yards later. The Chargers take a 7-0 lead, and the crowd gets themselves all fired up, but then Elway comes right back to Mark Jackson. 52 yards inside the 5-yard line, doesn't get into the end zone, sets up Sammy Winder's 1-yard touchdown run. All of a sudden, the game's tied 7-7, and the Broncos have had the ball twice, the Chargers once. The three amigos, how did they do today? We'll try this on for size. How about 14 catches, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns? Here's the one that put the Broncos ahead this day. John Elway to Ricky Nattiel, and that was a 46-yard touchdown. Denver led it 14-7. The Bronco defense, good job just before the half. They keep the Chargers out of the end zone, kept the momentum in their favor, and the score at the half was 17-10. And in the third quarter, first possession for the Broncos, Elway to Gene Lang, 5-yard touchdown, 24-10 Denver. And this will close out the scoring for the Broncos as Elway finds Vance Johnson, 31-10. Johnson now has caught a pass in 6 consecutive games. Elway, as I told you, the big day today. Folks, he helped generate 521 yards in total offense for the Broncos. They converted 5 out of 5 third downs in the third period. Denver now just a half a game out of first place in the AFC West. One other game that we want to make note of, the Raiders, the Seahawks.
All-time leading pass receiver. Taylor and defensive back Austin Goose Gonsolin were Denver's first stars on offense and defense, respectively, and they ignited the Broncos' competitive fire. Meanwhile, famed fullback Cookie Gilchrist concluded his brilliant AFL career in a Bronco uniform. Individual peaks of brilliance were indeed plentiful in the lean years when wins were hard to come by. But Phipps Broncos finally emerged from the shadows in 1967 with the arrival of new head coach Lou Saban. Saban ranted and raved and ripped the Broncos apart to get a fresh start in building a winner. He brought out the best in his players, and he brought to Denver some of the best players this team has ever had. Leading the charge was Richard Jackson, number 87, who would set the standard for which future Bronco defensive ends would be measured. Jackson's ferocious style of play was complemented by safety Bill Thompson, number 36, a versatile speedster, who was the first AFL player to lead the league in both punt and kickoff returns. The Phipps era was also graced by one of the great runners of all time, the leading ball carrier in Bronco history, Floyd Little. Little was the first #1 draft choice ever to sign with the team, and once he traded in the orange of Syracuse for the orange of Denver, he proceeded to make defenders simply red-faced. Floyd Little was a record breaker, but one mark the Broncos had not yet shattered was 500, as in a winning percentage. But that momentous barrier was finally broken in 1973, with veteran quarterback Charlie Johnson firmly entrenched at the helm. With speedy targets such as Haven Moses, number 25, Johnson shot his career passing totals over the 20,000-yard mark and directed the Broncos to their first winning season ever. That first sweet taste of success was quite palatable, and the Broncos were intent on savoring this newfound delicacy for years to come. Suddenly, a wide-open offense characterized Phipps Broncos of the mid-'70s, with Otis Armstrong looking more and more like Floyd Little's heir apparent. Number 24 exhibited a running style, equal parts power and fury. While Armstrong solidified the ground game, Rick Upchurch, number 80, opened up the aerial attack, giving the Broncos a dangerous deep threat. And no player in the league was more deadly in the open field with a punt return. Upchurch became the NFL's all-time leader in career punt return yardage. The Broncos were a good team, but they needed a spark to prove they were no mere flash in the pan, but a raging inferno. Thus was born the Orange Crush. It spread like wildfire. Bronco mania was infectious, and no one wanted to be cured. Defense wins championships, and Denver had built one of the best. They were closely knit, bound for glory, and supremely talented, with a nucleus of all pros in Randy Gradishar, Barney Chaffetz, and Tom Jackson. These men patrolled the football field as if it were a battlefield, and their combat zone was mined with explosives. This was a unit that went all out all season and played the consummate game of teamwork. With players such as Steve Foley and Louis Wright, number 20, on the prowl, no area was safe for opposing offenses to venture. The Broncos weaved together a unique blend of force and finesse and established a tradition of toughness on defense which endures to this day. Finally, in 1977, the stage was set for Denver to assume the role of champion. All the pieces on defense were firmly in place. The final link to a championship arrived in the form of veteran quarterback Craig Morton, who directed Denver to an unprecedented 12-2 record. The Broncos had secured a spot among the NFL elite, a place this team would occupy for the remainder of Gerald Phipps' tenure as team owner. For the very first time, the Denver Broncos and head coach Red Miller were coming home as division champions and playoff contenders. With the unbridled support of the greatest fans in pro football, the Broncos embarked on their first visit to the promised land of the playoff.
They received first-hand proof in the AFC title game when the Denver signal caller marched his team 98 yards to the tying score in the waning moments of regulation. Elway has come a long way in his 5-year career. and now must be ranked with the top passers in football. No other quarterback can roam the field with quite the panache of Mr. Elway, and few can throw the ball as far while on the run. In an age when many quarterbacks are robot-like extensions of rigid game plans, John Elway has a unique, unmistakable identity. And oh yes, Elway also wins championships.
There was a time not too long ago when this young man was rather confused by the prospect of competing in the complex world of professional football. In 1986, his fourth season in the NFL, John Elway cast aside forever the troubled times of his impulsive youth. He propelled the Denver Broncos to the Super Bowl. The Broncos fell short, but as the '86 season drew to its close, it was clear that Elway had stepped forth as a superstar.
The whole system of things you have to learn. You've got to learn the offense first, then you've got to learn the defense. Then you've got to learn how to put the offense together with the defense, how to attack. And I think that's where John's at. The man out of the pocket, on the run, is absolutely brilliant. Much of it is his God-given ability. But he's now a guy who's played an awful lot of football at all levels and is in his fourth year in the National Football League. And I think he's emerging right now at the top of his game.
It was in the playoffs that Elway, once and for all, secured his place among the NFL's planks. The first test came against the Patriots. That ankle injury put Elway's strength of character on the line. But number 7 reached deep within himself and pulled out that little extra.
Come on now, Johnny, baby, let's do it! Come on, John, let's make him